I absolutely love this SOS, even though I was procrastinating, and now that I'm doing it, it is so much fun and so cool. This rotation that I made for Seth, I think is amazing. The idea here, and it's probably one of the coolest things I played in a very long time. So I'm so excited. I didn't know there was this amount of creativity I could have put into this. You'll see what I mean, why I think it's so cool. Because usually you would say that because Miku gives you 2 extra turns, but that's an undivisible number by 3, which is what a Violet is, a DPS that is does her damage every 3 turns. So how do you manage that in like a 6-turn fight, adding 2 turns? So does that even do anything? Well, yes, it absolutely does. And I'll be cool to see if any other DPS can get around it in a similar way. But this is how Violet can do it. So right there, we use an item on Wonder because we want to make sure to... This SOS is very special. Even though we have Minami, we can't actually use an item very early. So we opt to use an item on Wonder first to get started on the SOS stage condition, which tells you to use an item for a 20% damage buff that stacks 2 times, which is very powerful, so you should be using it. And this is a clever play. You press Violet highlight and you guard. Why is this? The reason for this is because this will count as if the cooldown was cast on this turn. However, we're going to focus her damage on the 3rd turn. She has more time to accumulate her step stacks and basically pretend that she has 3 DPS faces, because we will be able to cast another highlight in 2 turns now because of her basically unused mechanic until this point, where she will auto cast her highlight when her turn begins if she has not casted her highlight. Now this will only make her cast her highlight once, so it will waste the A6 that gives her an extra highlight, but there's nothing we can really do about that. It's still a very, very good amount of DPS. Now I actually fucked up this run. Well, technically it's not even my fault, right? Because it's just RNG didn't line up, and I was just like, this is a pretty tough RNG to pull off, and I was already number 1, so I don't really feel like going for it until if someone was to be able to contest the score. I mentioned how beautiful this highlight is. This is one of the 2 times where I think the A6 is genuinely a huge visual upgrade, where you can do it twice and it's just amazingly fun. So we're not allowed to do any more attacks here because Seth has no more down points, so the next attack will down Seth straight away. We want to delay that until Miku does her S3. Let's take a second here also to talk about the turn order. Usually most of the times you want your A6 twins to be first in the action order. The reason is so that if you're not using their strategist form, when they use their button, they can still apply their skill as soon as possible, using the effect of everyone's skills and even highlights. However, since we are using the strategist twins here, they will apply it on every one of their S3s, and we want them 3rd, so that when they double trigger the Violet's S1, that Violet will have as many buffs as possible. Unlike Aki, this time we do actually opt to stack more highlights on this particular turn. The reason for that is the Side Nuke Twins highlight being very good. Not only is it damage inside of Miku, which provides Miku with damage, it's also just a really good buff. You want to apply for Violet's big turn. Much better than a Wonder highlight. It's probably the single highest burst of damage, far more than Makoto has done. It's like about 70 million damage in one action. We choose to reapply the attack item here because no other item does anything. The highlight, we're not going to highlight until the last turn, so we can use that. As much as you'd love to S1 here, Violet to get as much damage in Miku as possible, you really need to skill to the twins, because otherwise you're missing out on a follow-up. It's definitely gonna be worth more than Miku, since Miku in the SOS can't actually multiply all of her damage. One of the situations where she is kind of sometimes potentially worse in the SOS. That does make it so that if Vishnu ever comes back to the SOS, she will absolutely blow that boss the fuck up, because her beam is almighty damage. And honestly, I almost love this idea more than the idea with the Violet highlight. Krishna Sarasha Wonder Gun. That's right. You're using the gun to break the down points. Except I missed every single crit on the gun. So if the gun does crit, you will break a down point, but Wonder just did not crit. They got a really high roll like at the start with the damage, and I was like, this is still gonna be a really high score. So it didn't matter. Usually you would S1 here with Minami to reduce another down point. However, I realized, okay, well, Seth is no longer gonna get knocked down because Wonder missed all his crits. So I'm just gonna use an additional item to stack up her passive. So not the most optimal thing here then. We missed out on a lot of damage. But yeah, sometimes I wish there was more things like this in the game where it kind of matters, where your split second in-game decision matters more, but you know, as a turn-based game, like, it's just not really ever gonna happen. It's still an incredible performance from Violet in the SOS. That's really all thanks to Miku. Now let's move on to the other side. I decided to put it all in one video because I think it's at least fitting for SOS, because, you know, I kind of view it, it's kind of like definitely more of a combined kind of like a full kind of, which is part of the reasons why I like SOS so much more than Guild Boss, I think, in my opinion, is because it really stretches the value of like how do you combine the scores, especially because Guild Boss used to be more like that, right? When there wasn't that big fat number one next to each of the bosses, so it's more like, okay, I could focus hard on one side, and I kind of don't like that, because that just that just means, oh, I'm gonna put the best supports and the best DPS on this side, and that's kind of it. There's not as much creativity that can go into team building, as much thought as maybe SOS could, because realistically, who really cares about that a little bit of extra point when you are, trying to like get your guild score in or something? Like it probably does matter. It probably does matter, but it feels more impactful here. And you can just see the result of your score, and you can see your ranking. Obviously, it's not a very accurate ranking, right? Because if you don't have the A6, you cannot actually rank properly in the SOS. So that's the thing, but that's okay. Anyways, on this side, so we don't have Minami anymore, so that means we actually do have to manually start using our items. And so I opt that I think I want as many possible buffs as possible on the big Makoto turn. So instead of trying to do an item on Wonder, what I decided what should be the best is using an item here on this particular turn here with both Yukari and Wind. This replaced their skill 2s, which is basically an attack buff and a small damage buff from Yukari for Makoto. Specifically for Makoto's, I guess, this turn and the next turn, which I think is probably the most worth sacrificing. Now, you can pretty much almost sacrifice any buff other than one that provides defense down to the stage bonus, and the stage bonus would be better. 20% final damage, just that good. However, to get the better score, you do need to find what thing is actually the best to replace it with. Else, it is a pretty same carbon copy of what the last guild boss was for Makoto. It's the same exact team as well. So there's really not too much to say, not too many details to go into, other than how I decided to change what I decided to do with the items. Of course, there is no Dionysus here this time. Was it Dionysus? No, there wasn't even Dionysus on the other side either. So yeah, it's pretty much the same rotation as you would have done for the guild boss last week for a ball. So I don't really know what much more I could say other than just start talking about random shit and other things and shit, which is cool and Pog and cool and shit as well. But yes and shit. And I'm very submissive and very obedient. So I like when my comment section tells me, hey, I want a video about this. I'm like, I got you, bro. Boo boo pookie. I have got you. And so here I am with the SOS. Like, usually I dislike the idea of uploading an SOS video, or because I'm a very competitive person, and I like the idea that there is a mode that is very primarily solo and it tests your own, I guess, whatever. But the thing is, at the end of the day, the gacha game, it's unfair because people don't have certain units, they cannot pull all their A6s. It's unfair because cards are complete RNG, and it's unfair because there's like small progression rewards tied to it. It's, I suppose, the difference between like a higher tier reward versus a lower tier reward is not egregious here. There are definitely gacha games that have it way worse, and so I often advocate and I tell people that it's okay if they derank, or if they don't score high enough, or if they skip a DPS or do something so that they score a bit lower in SOS or in Guild Boss. It doesn't really matter because your score goes away, right? Sometimes you will keep a badge or two, but who's really looking at those badges? And also, What does it affect long term? Does it stop you from getting a persona long term from the repression medals? Probably not. You don't lose any gems on it, so you will get the same amount of pulls as you always will. It's just the meta progression of the game that you're missing out on. But it's really not large enough of a difference to make a huge downward snowball. You know, if you fall behind for a couple of weeks, you can climb back up pretty easily. Definitely a few accounts, it's very easy to, you know, not have pulled or done very much at the start of the game, not really played it very much, but now have come back to play it and they do just fine. Even if you start an account fresh just now, you'll still do just fine as you pick up some of the... You'll need to pick up some of the key characters. So okay, it does depend on when you start, because I guess the banners that you start on are very important, or the banners that are coming up, because you really want to catch the important characters like Minami, but then you also want to catch the reruns of certain supports. But you know, when you're starting a gacha game, it's always slow. Even if you wail, it's always going to be slow. It's always better to start at the start. I'm super tired right now. I've been playing so much Power World, just like basically sitting at the like basically all night with my friends. I live in Australia and I play with a lot of friends that are like EU. Apparently, like a whole bunch of my like P5X friends are from the EU apparently. So we started a server together on Power World. Yeah, and so apparently I just can't sleep because I have to play that game, and I don't even play that game that much because like people are like way higher level than me and stuff like that. I mean, we just started though, so like we literally just started, but there's definitely enough for me to feel that doing that, and on top of coming back to like P5X rotation. And obviously, I don't really have to think when I play that game, but like if I'm playing this game, obviously I have to think real hard. Last stuff, I'm like, damn, I'm making this video, I'm like, damn, I'm really tired, and but I still just want to go back and play Power World. But yeah, I probably play P5X the most out of like literally everyone that I know, at least. Definitely in global, I feel like it's maybe there's some one like Reddit user 69 who sits with the game open. I had a friend who played a lot of Genshin Impact, and he basically sat with the game open next to his favorite character Ayaka, and he would like sleep with the this is not a fucking joke. He would sleep with the laptop open of Ayaka, just, you know, idle with her idol next to him. You know, if someone would have done that with P5X, I guess I couldn't compete. But just in terms of actual raw active hours, I've spent like, for the past, ever since this game came out on global, I spent like more than half of my life honestly playing this stuff. It's a very big time commitment if you wanted to do everything. And I'm a little bit scared of burnout. I've had a lot of friends who've already said that, you know, they're not so much fond of the game anymore and they don't play the game as much. I feel that sometimes, and so I try to take it slow, but I want to stick to this game till the very end because I love it so much. I love Persona in general as a series, which is kind of the reason why everyone started, is kind of for Persona. But I have been going out ham pretty. The thing I think I try to put in a lot of effort into my videos, not just like editing it, but like the actual rotation itself. Trying to think about it takes very long time. I mean, I do that anyways for my guild, and so to put it in video form content, it's just, maybe it adds a little bit more value to me wasting, quote unquote, wasting my time here. And I'm also addicted to the views. It's definitely not a waste of time to enjoy something. So here's my final score at first place. It's definitely not the most I can do because there's definitely the Violet side has that RNG improvement, and maybe there's some slight tweaks and changes to rotations that will make it better. So if I ever need to put in some little more effort to keep that number one, then I will. If I don't, then I don't. There's no point because there's nothing further to climb. Old me would have really disagreed with that statement. They would have been like, you gotta push yourself to the best standard you can do. It doesn't matter what anyone else does, except now I'm lazy and also I have other games to play, and also I don't want to get myself burnt out. So I thank you for the watching, so I now play more Power now. Bye.